So it's been about 2 weeks since I've had the Pixel 8 Pro, and you may have seen videos on this already, but I actually wanted to spend more time with the phone and see what it's all about. Now, as someone who's actually enjoyed using the Pixel 7 and 7 Pro from last year, this was actually the phone that I was really looking forward to at the end of 2023, because I've always loved the Pixel's camera system, and boy, they did not disappoint this year. Alright, so first things first, the Pixel 8 Pro is using the all-new Tensor G3 processor, which is their next generation processor that's all about AI and machine learning. Now, just like previous Tensor chips, Google's really focusing on those two things, AI and machine learning, especially when it comes to its cameras. Now, these Tensor chips are not supposed to be blazing fast like, Qualcomm's Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, but in terms of overall performance though, you can probably compare the Tensor G3 to the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, or maybe the 8 Gen 1 in terms of performance, but the power efficiency of the 8 Plus Gen 1 or even the 8 Gen 2. Now, besides the brand new G3 processor, you're also getting 12 gigs of RAM and up to 512 gigs of storage. Now, in terms of design and how the phone feels, in my opinion, it feels slightly different from last year's 7 Pro. The sides are a bit more flat, yet rounded off in the corners. The rounded back definitely feels great in hand, mixed with that soft matte finish that they added to the Pro line this year. And probably the best part about this 8 Pro is that the screen is now flat. I've always hated that subtle curve in the screen in the Pro line since the Pixel 6 Pro, but now that this 8 Pro features a flat display, I'm really enjoying using this phone. Now, the camera bar hasn't changed much from last year, minus the fact that they've now combined all 3 lenses under one glass instead of, having a separate cutout for the periscope zoom lens. But the camera bar itself is still made out of this shiny aluminum, which if you had the Pixel 7 Pro from last year, you know that this thing will scratch like there's no tomorrow unless you put a case or a skin on the camera bar. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I love me some dbrand skin. So huge shout out to dbrand for sponsoring a portion of this video. And since my Pixel 8 Pro is in this matte black color this year, dbrand's got this triple black skin that you can pick up, which in fact makes the Pixel 8 Pro even more stealthier with this all black look with the subtle black Damascus pattern all over the camera bar. Now, if you're more of a case person, you can always pick up a grip case and add that triple black skin to complete the look, but it also adds MagSafe to your Pixel 8 Pro, which is definitely nice to have. So if you guys want to protect your Pixel 8 Pro or make it stealthier with their triple black skin, make sure to go to dbrand.com/heymarkel or click the first link in the description below. Alright, so the display, like I mentioned earlier, is now flat compared to last year's 7 Pro, but probably the biggest change here on the display front is how stupid bright this is. The Pixel 8 Pro can get as bright as 2400 nits, which for context is 400 nits brighter than the iPhone 15 series, and it's going to be a lot brighter than the S23 Ultra. So if you're constantly using your Pixel 8 Pro outdoors, you'll notice that brightness difference right away. It's crazy good outdoors. Now, of course, you won't be able to sustain that 2400 nits of brightness, without the phone heating up or throttling your display or draining your battery, but nonetheless, it's still nice to see in a flagship from Google. Besides that though, you're also getting LTPO 120Hz refresh rate. It still has OLED, which means colors look vibrant, the blacks are deep, and the texts are really crisp and sharp. However, out of the box, the phone will be set to high resolution instead of full resolution to save on battery life, so if you want that extra resolution, I'd highly suggest changing it to full resolution. Otherwise, keep it at high resolution, which will save you a bit of battery. And speaking of battery, in the last 2 weeks that I've had the phone, the Pixel 8 Pro is pretty much in line with the rest of the flagships that came out in the last few months. I was able to average around 6.5 to 7 hours of screen on time, which will give me almost always a full day of usage. Now, charging did get somewhat of an upgrade here. We're now at 30 watts versus 23 watts from the 7 Pro, but it is still behind Samsung's 45 watts. Now, in terms of software, not much has really changed here on the Pixel 8 Pro with Android 14. Much like the hardware, everything on the software front feels more refined this time around. It's the same Pixel launcher and software we know and love, with little to no gimmicks and lots of AI things to really help you get the best experience out of your smartphone. And a few things that jumped out to me this year though is the Face Unlock, which now meets the highest level of security with Tensor G3 and the M2 security chip. Now this means that you can use Face Unlock with banking apps or payments like Google Wallet. Now there's also Magic Eraser for audio, which can magically erase or tune down the background noise or vice versa using the Tensor G3 chip. Alright, so I'm currently recording a video on the Pixel 8 Pro while I have some city traffic white noise playing in the background just to see how this new audio Magic Eraser works and see if it actually works in this kind of environment. So let's see what this sounds like when it's edited, I guess. And then there's the new magic editor in Google Photos that you can do a lot of cool things like move people into frame and have AI regenerate the background. You can even erase the background and have a completely new background if you want, or maybe you want to change up the sky and how it looks. There's also this new feature called Best Take, which is going to allow you to change people's faces in a photo with another version of their face that looks good for the final photo, hence why it's called Best Take. Now this is all done on the phone with that new Tensor G3 chip, and it's pretty interesting. Now there are other videos on YouTube that you can watch that will dive deeper into the AI things, but let's talk more about the cameras. So in terms of its cameras, this is probably where Google really made some significant changes in the hardware. So starting off with that main wide camera, it's still a 50 megapixel camera, but it now has a lower aperture at f1.65 for better low light photos. And we're also getting an all new ultra wide camera at 48 megapixels with an impressive f1.95 aperture and a 48 megapixel 5x periscope zoom lens with an f2.8 aperture. Besides the camera hardware though, the new Tensor G3 processor also refines how it handles photo and video processing. Now in terms of its photo quality, I mean, I've always loved how Pixel photos look out of the camera, and the same applies to the 8 Pro. Like the going theme with the Pixel series, the photos look more refined each year. Now in good lighting, photos look really good with the right amount of contrast and color accurate colors. The HDR processing is top notch where it's not over exaggerating the highlights and the shadows together, and it's not overly processed or too sharp, which I really appreciate. All in all, it's a really good camera system that I think most people are going to enjoy. Now in low light, I noticed that they look just as good as photos with ample lighting, and I also noticed that the HDR is working extra hard to make sure everything in the photo looks good without the highlights being too bright and the shadows getting too grainy or smudgy, especially in scenarios with little to no lights. Now one thing I will say when shooting with the Pixel 8 Pro is just how laggy or janky it looks when you're going from 1x to 5x, and here's what that looks like. It's kind of crazy how bad this looks, and I'm not sure what's causing this to happen, but every other phone that I've tested in the last few months does not look this bad. Also, another thing that I don't love, at least here on the 8 Pro, is that you don't have your exposure slider anymore. You'd have to tap this thing on the lower right of the screen to bring up the Pro controls, which will give you more granular controls than before. But man, I do miss just being able to tap on the screen and then adjust the exposure dial and then shoot. And then when it comes to videos, this is one area that I was actually genuinely surprised by. Video quality, as in how the video is processed, looks really good out of the camera, almost as good as the iPhone. Now obviously this can't shoot in ProRes or ProRes Log, but using the main 1x camera, an ultra wide, and even the 5x camera looks really good. And in a future update, you can even have Google's machine learning and cloud processing process night sight videos, as well as adjust colors, lighting, and stabilization in any situation, which is kind of crazy. Now that feature is coming in a couple of months, and one I'm definitely excited for and something I definitely want to try out in a future video. And yeah, that's pretty much my experience with the Pixel 8 Pro after 2 weeks of using it. It's pretty much a refinement from last year's 7 Pro, and if you didn't upgrade last year and you're still waiting to upgrade, this is probably the year to do so, because in my opinion, the hardware changes from the 7 Pro and 8 Pro are pretty significant, especially in the display and camera front. Now, if you're just after performance and having the fastest phone out there, the Pixel 8 series is definitely not for you. But if you love how Pixel does Android and you want 7 years of updates and you just love how simple things are and you love all the AI stuff that they're doing and how the camera performs, I think the Pixel 8 Pro is a great pickup. The price did jump a bit, but I think Google justified that price bump with the hardware changes that they made this year. And I think the 8 Pro is just as good as the S23 Ultra and iPhone 15 Pro Max.